Street Garage, welcome back. I'm here with not Esparza, I'm here with Lindsay. Lindsay's joining me for the build sheet of this car right here. This is a 2023 Dodge Challenger Hellcat wide body, and it's a jailbreak and it's a last call. Guys, if you don't know what this is the last of them. This is the last of the Challenger. After 2023, these cars are going away for good. And of course, we gotta give away another one because we know that you guys absolutely love these things. Let's start up front. I mean, of course, it's got the traditional Dodge Challenger front end. It's been this way for close to 15 years at this point. You know, the dual round headlights. However, the Hellcat, it's got the air catcher, air intake that feeds air through the headlight straight into the air intake that sits right behind it, on top of having the dual snorkel hood. And speaking of hood, it may look like the factory shape, but we changed it. We've got the Anderson Composites red eye hood on this jailbreak, and I think it looks really cool. It like fits perfectly, and it kind of gives it that extra aggressive edge that the car kind of needs,
for sure,
or doesn't need. But yeah, the aggressive edge that it does provide on this thing is really nice, and it makes the car look so cool. In my opinion.
And it's a very subtle upgrade. You know, from a distance, it's very subtle, but right up close, you can see that carbon.
You can see it, and most enthusiasts are going to really appreciate a piece like this, especially from Anderson, because they get their molds and everything spot on to where this hood fits possibly better than factory. And it provides, you know, it's a little bit lighter than factory too. So
yeah, we save 1 pound.
1 pound
with this hood.
The looks you get with this thing are awesome, and it's carbon fiber. We all love carbon fiber, right?
Of course.
Carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber.
This thing is, like I said, a wide body. So it's got 3.5 inches of extra width on each side, and we filled it in. We filled it in with some American Racing AR942 Bishop wheels. I believe these are the gunmetal face with a machined lip, and that over the black with the yellow calipers looks pretty nice.
Nice formula
on the Hellcat. And you can only get the yellow calipers with the jailbreak, because it allows you to customize the colors that you want the car to have and stuff like that.
6 pistons up front, 4 piston in the back. The Brembos.
6 piston up front, 4 piston in the rear. Brembos, like you said. And this thing really stops. Not only does it go with that 6.2 liters supercharged V8 under the hood, deemed the Hellcat, of course. That's the name of the car is the name of the engine, if you didn't know that. So the Hellcat engine under the hood, 6.2 liter V8 with a 2.4 liter supercharger on top. That's bigger than a lot of engines out there on the road. And so the forced induction on this car sounds mad. The whine when you step on the gas. I mean, you know, like we drive these cars. We don't drive Hellcats in our free time.
Yeah, for sure.
And so driving these cars is pretty aggressive, and it's pretty out there for us. You know, I drive a 4-cylinder. You also have a 4-cylinder
so it's
turbo,
like
and so having the 4 extra cylinders plus a huge supercharger,
you can feel it.
You can feel it. It's pretty noticeable.
For sure. And talking about the stance, we also included some Eibach lowering springs. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, so the Eibach springs are about 1.5 to 2 inches of a drop. These cars from the factory, yeah, these are nice cars. They're cool, got a lot of power, but the ride height needs some work from the factory. The wheel gap is pretty outrageous, right?
Yeah.
It's almost, it's comedic how much wheel gap it has. So we tightened that up with some Eibach springs, lowered it down on the American Racing wheels, and now the stance is dialed.
So we talked about the wheels. Tell me a little bit about the tire setup.
Yeah, so these are actually the factory tires. We just swapped the factory Pirellis over from the stock wheels. These are 305s all around. However, the wheels are staggered. So they're a 20 by 11 up front, and in the back, we've got a 20 by 12. So it's a slightly larger wheel in the back, which allows you to fit more meat. And we're actually going to put a slightly larger tire on this thing. We think all Hellcats need wider tires. And the fact that this thing is a wide body, I believe we can fit up to like a 335 in the rear without too many issues. So we're probably going to do that.
Let's do it.
But for now, we just have the Pirelli All Season tires on this Hellcat. And they're not a performance tire. However, they do look really good when you light them up and do a big burnout. They definitely provide a lot of smoke.
Were these tires on this car during Chuckwalla?
They were.
Okay.
Yeah, they were on the car during Chuckwalla. And one big difference of, you know, this car versus like a Camaro ZL1 or something like that is you know, the tires from the factory. ZL1 comes with a race tire from the factory. It's a very sticky, soft tire. This comes with an all-season. It's not a high-performance tire, but it is a Pirelli, so it's a pretty nice tire in general. But for a 717 horsepower Hellcat, with sending power to the rear wheels, these things, they give traction up very easily.
Instant, yeah.
So, but that's the fun of a Hellcat, right?
For sure.
You know, doing burnouts all around town
Yep.
and doing donuts in intersections. Nah,
Not intersections.
legally.
Only at a racetrack. Another small upgrade we did, might go unnoticeable, are the blacked out all the badges
Oh yeah.
on the front and rear.
These cars from the factory, these side markers on the front and on the rear, they're yellow in the front and then they're red in the rear. So they stand out, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Especially on a black.
On a black car.
Black
So it's only
exterior,
right that they get covered to give that car that kind of extra midnight dark look,
Yeah.
the aggressive finished look that we were looking for with this thing.
For sure. Should we get under the hood?
At this point, we've seen a lot of these Hellcat engines, and I gotta say, of the 6.2 liter supercharged V8s out there, the Hellcat V8 is one of my favorites. It sounds the best. When you get into boost, the supercharger whine is just epic. It's right in your face. And then, of course, we've got this Corsa air intake. This is actually an oiled air intake, and this opens up the sound of the supercharger even more, and it just gives us that sound that we love even sooner, you know?
For sure. And we've given away, this is what, the third, fourth Hellcat? So you guys have obviously seen the Hellcat engine, and every time we, you know, open the hood, but really getting behind the wheel of this car is when you feel the Hellcat and just the power behind it.
Exactly. It's an epic feeling when you put your foot in it and you can feel the car kind of get a little squirrely, and you hear the supercharger whine and the sound with that MagnaFlow exhaust too. It's just a complete symphony, and it's just going straight into your ears, and people are looking at you because the car is wide body and it's lowered. It's just such an epic car. I love this thing. And the black, and it's also right here, we should probably mention this. There's the Last Call plaque that's riveted to the kind of cowling right here on this car. This signifies that this is the last of them. After this, they're gone. And this is going to be someone's car because we're giving it away, and someone's going to get a sweet Last Call Jailbreak Hellcat Challenger that we've put Corsa on. It's got the Hellcat engine under the hood.
American Racing, should we make our way to the back?
Yes, definitely. There's some stuff back there that I got to show off for sure. Coming around the back, you see we've got the traditional fuel cap. They put fuel right there on the door so that you know that that's where the fuel goes, and it goes nowhere else. It's also black. It's an optional feature for this thing. I think they're usually chrome. So I'm a fan of just keeping the whole car black, and this makes it look even more badass, in my opinion.
And of course,
at the back. At the back, one thing about this car that I really like is when you look at the classic Challengers, they have this exact same shape on the trunk, and then it has a very similar spoiler. So not a lot's changed over the years of Dodge making the Challenger. They really just took the old design and just made it modern and used a lot of the same features on the modern car, which I really like. It's a nod to the old car, and they really didn't have to change much, you know?
Maintain that style.
Exactly.
Can't fix what's not broke. And then the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room.
The MagnaFlow Cat-back XMOD exhaust.
Exactly, yeah. The XMOD from MagnaFlow. This thing is basically a modular exhaust that allows you to have a few different exhaust setups all in one. It comes with everything to have the car basically straight piped, or you can have the resonators in to make it a little quieter. But either way, it's going to increase the performance of the car, and it's going to unleash the sound of that chaotic Hellcat V8. I really like this exhaust because it's got the carbon fiber tips down here, and they really complete the back end of this car, like the rear fascia. It just looks really good because from the factory, I don't know if you remember, but the factory exhaust, it's basically a rectangular single tip. It goes from a round pipe to a rectangular tip. I think it looks really goofy. And this takes that away and it replaces it with some really nice sized carbon tips, and they're dual on each side. So
stock exhaust was tucked in a little bit too.
It was it was completely flush with this like diffuser right here. So this not only brings it out, but it like fills this area completely. And it's not all looks. it's not all looks, I must mention. It also sounds really freaking good, and I think it's worth us doing a remote start on this thing because the viewers need to hear it. They probably don't want to hear us talking too much without hearing this thing start. So sounds good.
I can't hear you.
What?
I can't hear you.
What?
I can't hear you.
Okay, all right, I'll turn it off in that case.
So good though.
It does sound good, and that's a cold start too.
Straight from the remote too?
Straight from the remote. You can turn it on and off with the key fob, which I love because you can really show off. If you're at the grocery store, just walk up to it and just remote start it, and you look cool. And the car sounds sick, so it's going to grab everyone's attention around you. And you know, the red key, not to mention the red key. The car comes with 2 keys if you're not aware of this. One key is the black key that unlocks 500 horsepower, but the red key, this allows you to unlock all 717 horsepower from this Hellcat Challenger and get the full potential of what this thing can do. Speaking of what it can do, inside of the car, we've got tons of features that allow the thing to be more performance oriented when it's on the drag strip or on the racetrack. You can really dial in the traction settings, the suspension settings, because it does have built-in adaptive dampers, which is nice because you press some buttons inside and you can change how the car feels. The steering changes, the transmission's shifting changes, and it makes the car feel, you put it in track mode and the car feels like it's just so snappy. Everything tightens up, you feel it. It feels so good. But it's not only just, it's not all go. You know, like we were talking about with the brakes, you got to have those measures that allow the car to safely go fast, you know? So it goes fast, you need to be able to stop it. It has performance-oriented modes, so you got to be able to cool it down and you know, cycle the car so that it's not overheating, because it is really freaking high performance. So the car has all types of cool down modes built into it, and it's just epic because it's got so much race-bred heritage in it that, you know, you don't even have to do anything to the car to get this stuff in use. It's all built in, and it's all just off the red key. Inside of the Hellcat, man, this is a really nice place to be. This being a jailbreak, it allows you to customize the colors that you get on the car, such as like the calipers, the seats. You can add some stripes, lots of different things. And this one has the Laguna leather seats, and are these demonic red?
Demonic red.
Demonic red seats. They've got the Hellcat logos embossed in them, and they're nice. These seats kind of hug you in a way that makes you feel like, you know, you're not going anywhere when you're really whipping this thing. But they're also comfortable, so you're not sacrificing comfort when you're sitting in these seats. They're hugging you, but they're almost like little couches. It's a very fast land yacht. You know what I mean?
It's a good way to put it.
It's a boat, but it's very fast, and the seats in it are very comfortable. And with all that power, you know, it doesn't even matter. One thing I really like about this one compared to other ones that we've given away is this one has the Alcantara wrapped steering wheel. And I think that is just a really nice touch because it kind of gives the car that more race feel. You know, these cars are, you know, when you have an Alcantara steering wheel like this, more so you want to wear gloves. And, you know, it's because of the material on it, but I just think it just makes the car even nicer. It's a nice touch. And then, of course, right here we've got the shifter, and this is actually a nod to the classic Challenger shifter. If you look at like a 70s Dodge Challenger, it has a shifter that's a very similar shape to this. Of course, this one is a little bit different with the electronics and stuff, but they, once again, continuing that classic Challenger trend in the modern car, didn't have to change much except for modernize it, which I think is pretty cool. We've got the, go ahead.
I was gonna say, not to mention on the wheel, the SRT lights up.
Yes, this lights up in red. Does this one light up in red?
It does,
It lights up in red at night when the lights are on, and as you're driving along, you see that just kind of glow in there. It makes you really want to just put your foot down and just really haul ass in this thing. Because it's a Hellcat. And speaking of Hellcat and SRT, we've got this SRT button right here, and you've got your launch button right next to it. So these two buttons are going to be very crucial to setting the car up how you want to drive it. You know, like I was saying earlier, you've got the track mode, sport, street, of course, and you have custom, which allows you to select each specific setting that you want, and it allows you to have the car exactly how you want it set up. And you can keep traction on and everything and keep it safe for the streets. the launch button's also really, it's cool that they put a whole button for
Just
launch
for
mode.
that.
So you don't have to fumble through any menus. You don't have to turn anything on. All you do is just hit that launch button. The screen pops up with the RPMs that it allows you to launch at, and you can change it. And then you hold your foot on the brake and you step on the gas, and then you launch the car. It's very simple. Like I said, no fumbling with any controls. If someone wants to race you and they're right there, just hit that button and you're taking off on them. So, and speaking of taking off on them, the paddles on this thing are also pretty cool. When you slap this thing in race mode, or not in race mode for this one, in track mode, and you shift, it feels so aggressive and so snappy. I absolutely love it.
And to point out some features up on the paneling. So we have the carbon accents and the panel badge.
So this is actually real carbon. This is not like some fake printed carbon. This is actually real carbon for the Jailbreak, and it's got it here on the center console, surrounding the shifter and all the buttons here, and then on the dash and surrounding the infotainment center and the gauges.
Carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber, carbon fiber.
I like it a lot. I think the carbon and the Alcantara just makes this thing like just a little bit nicer.
It's a nice touch,
you know? And then of course you've got the Jailbreak badge right here, signifying that this thing is a Jailbreak, allowing you to unlock all those custom features that Dodge allows you, or I guess allowed you to input for this car when ordering it. So yeah, another really cool touch about the Jailbreak. So this thing has Alpine speakers, and it sounds pretty great. I've heard the cars with Harman Kardon, and while those speakers sound amazing, I'm actually kind of shocked that these Alpine speakers bump as hard as they do in comparison to the Harman Kardon kit that is the upgrade for this car. So pretty impressed with this setup, and it, you know.
But when you have a Hellcat up front,
you're not listening to the radio. You're not really worrying about the audio.
You want to listen to that.
You're hearing that supercharger.
Yeah.
It's going from the engine straight into the ear, and then you're hearing that MagnaFlow exhaust too.
Yeah.
So yeah, music, not a big deal in this car. All right, guys, that wraps it up for the Last Call Jailbreak Hellcat Challenger Widebody. It's a mouthful, but this is a special car. This is the last of them. We've got the Anderson Composites hood, the American Racing wheels, the MagnaFlow exhaust.
And if you want the chance to take home this Jailbreak Challenger, head to freedomstreetgarage.com, claim your entries. You could be driving off in this car or taking $85,000 cash home with you. Good luck.